On this edition of Seattle Seahawks Today, we'll explain why the Seahawks got great news thanks to this guy, Roger Goodell, here on today's show. Tyler Jones here with you. Appreciate you joining us. And before we get to that great news, folks, all week long we are battling our Broncos channel in a sub-battle to see who can get the most subscribers this week. We don't want to just beat the Broncos on the football field, but off the football field as well. For daily news and rumors, live shows, watch parties for every game, breaking news and more. It's all in one place right here on Seattle Seahawks Today. Subscribe now for free, youtube.com/Seahawks TV. The NFL approved allowing private equity to own up to a 10% stake in NFL franchises across the league. And how does this affect the Seattle Seahawks? So let's take this piece by piece here. Let's start with this from Adam Schefter, saying a new NFL world, NFL owners will vote today on a proposal that would allow teams to sell up to a total of 10% of each team to a list of permitted private equity firms. The vote did get approved. It was passed. Then Schefter went on to say later, allowing teams to sell up to a total of 10% of each team to a list of permitted private equity firms is expected to be voted on and approved today. It was. So, following that up, here's what you need to know about this situation. Private equity can invest up to 10% ownership of teams. Each fund of the approved list from the NFL can hold ownership stakes in 6 total teams, 6 different teams across the league. Teams can sell multiple stakes to the different funds. Each investment has to be at least 3% of that ownership stake, and the teams will still have to have a controlling owner at a 30% interest of that ownership rate. So then the next question, all right, so private equity is approved. It's allowed in the NFL. How does this affect the Seattle Seahawks? Well, sooner than later, the Seattle Seahawks are going to be up for sale, folks. They are going to be on the market as Jody Allen, who currently owns the Seahawks, taking over the trust from the late Paul Allen. She is going to be forced to sell the team at some point in time. Now, will that happen sooner or later? That remains to be seen. We have more on that from the Washington Post that we'll get to here in just a bit. But think about this. When the Seahawks come up for sale, now with private equity being allowed to be involved, this is going to allow the Seahawks to maximize their ability to sell to the best possible ownership group. You are going to get an ownership group that is going to spend top dollar for this team. And when you have a top dollar ownership group, that means that they're going to have everything you could want from a potential owner with private equity. Not even saying private equity is going to buy into the Seahawks, but it at least raises the stakes where you can get the best possible owner when you do eventually sell. Do you like private equity in the NFL? What do you guys think about this? I know some folks are nervous about this idea, but it's been successful in other leagues. We'll explain more here in a second. Weigh in, let us know why for yes and for no. At this point in time, the Seahawks are currently valued at $4.5 billion. Billion with a B. That's close to about the league average, which is about $4.7 billion. And so what does private equity do when it comes to this idea of potentially buying stake in teams? Well, private equity provides fresh liquidity to long-term gains to these NFL teams, where somebody like, let's say, Jody Allen, for example, if she were to take private equity, then that would be immediate money thrown in to this team. It also means expanding the salary cap. It would allow that flexibility to pay more players and be able to help out the Seahawks, who aren't in a good salary cap position for the future. $25 million above the cap next year. It also would help facilitate the cost of new team facilities and venues. I know the Seahawks have a great stadium, but think big picture when you're talking practice facility and everything that goes on around the stadium, giving everything you could ever want and then some. That's where private equity can help out. They've already had success in the NBA, MLB, NHL, the MLS, and the NWSL. So this is right up the alley of private equity to be able to do what they're looking to do in the NFL. Now, back to the Seahawks end of things. The Paul Allen Trust recently released a statement on where things are at on a potential sell to WAPO. This is what they said. As Jody publicly stated last year, the sports teams are not for sale. That will eventually change due to Paul's wishes, but there is no preordained timeline for when that will happen. Interested parties can engage when we establish a sales process at some point in the future. And that sale could be coming sooner than later, as the Washington Post is reporting that a sale of the Seattle Seahawks could be coming as early as 2025. Listen to this from the Washington Post. If it is sold before May, the Seahawks would owe 10% of the sale price to the state of Washington under the terms of a 1997 referendum that funded the construction of what is now called Lumen Field. That provision no longer applies thereafter, and some observers have regarded that as a prospective starting point for the sale process. And you think about this Seahawks team in a big market like Seattle, a team that is well built for the future on the football field, that has one of the best fan bases in the league. This is an ascending asset. This is something that may be valued at 4.7 now, but by the time the Seahawks sell, could be worth well more than that. Could be for a much higher asking price than the 4.7 they're currently valued at. Now, the next ownership group, whether it's an individual or it's a lot of people involved, who would you like to see involved? Is there a big name investor that comes to mind? Is there a former player or coach that you'd like to see in the fold? Weigh in. Let us know who you'd like to see a part of the next Seahawks ownership group. Today's show is sponsored by Game Time. Game Time is the place to go for the best seats, the lowest prices guaranteed. Whether you're looking for tickets to sporting events, concerts, theater productions, comedy shows, and more, Game Time's got it all. You pick the event you want to go to, you choose your seat, see if you like that seat or not, and then you're checking out with Apple Pay, Google Pay, Venmo, all major credit card providers. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite team play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. They have this new thing called Super Deals, so those are deals you're not going to want to pass up. They have the seat views, so you can see what the seat is like, get the visual. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. The link is in the comments and description of today's video. Now the private equity again. Roger Goodell, the commissioner of the National Football League, released this statement after private equity was approved by NFL owners in a 31-1 vote. The Bengals, the only ones that did not approve. This won't change a thing. This is 10% of a team. All it is a silent position that would allow access to capital for those teams that wish to offer 10% of their team. I see where Goodell is going, but he's not being truthful in this statement. 10% is a lot, folks. And when you're talking about access and the money that could potentially give to a franchise, that's a lot of money. And what I think, too, is with private equity now as an option for the Seahawks or any other team for that matter, I think this is likely going to phase out individual ownership. What we see around the league of one person owning a team, now that you're going to have private equity putting money in, it's going to be highly unlikely that you'll see one person own a football team anymore. This is going to create a complete shift, I think, to ownership groups around the league, which is the direction we've seen the sport go, and I think that even ramps up with having private equity involved. And the Washington Post, in their reporting, they are saying that Jeff Bezos is a name to watch. We've told you about that previously. The Washington Post, which is owned by Jeff Bezos, had made the point that the NFL specifically wants Bezos involved in a potential deal to buy the Seattle Seahawks. Listen to this. Some in the NFL are hopeful that Amazon founder Jeff Bezos will be involved in the bidding for the Seahawks. Bezos, who owns the Washington Post, explored a bid for the Commanders but never made one. Bezos has an estimated net worth of $152.3 billion, according to Forbes, making him the world's third wealthiest individual. So Bezos, with all that money and his investments, think about this. Just because he's worth $152.3 billion doesn't mean that he has $152.3 billion in cash just sitting there. Bezos might not even be able to buy the Seahawks by himself, potentially. It might cause him to have to bring in private equity. If you're one that wants Bezos to be the owner of this team, well, he might have to get private equity involved. There could be a marriage where Bezos and private equity come together to make this happen, to potentially buy the Seahawks here. That's a possibility as well. What do you think about Bezos and the idea of him buying the Seahawks? I know he's a bit of a controversial figure, but he is a Seattle native. He is a Seahawks fan. Weigh in. Let me know. Type HY for hell yes, HN for hell no if you want Bezos to buy the Seahawks. Appreciate you joining us here on this edition of Seattle Seahawks Today. For continuing Seahawks coverage, subscribe now, youtube.com/Seahawks TV for daily updates with the latest happenings on your favorite team, whether we're talking game previews to sports business like this show. We got it all right here on Seahawks Today. I'm Tyler Jones. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.